The money is officially drying up for poor Prince Harry and Meghan Markle as more news of the dissolution. The house is silent, the gate is locked, and the $14.65 million Montecito mansion that was supposed to be Harry and Meghan's forever home, their sanctuary there. Statement: their escape from the crew around is being quietly emptied. Sources close to the couple confirm what many have suspected for months. It is over. Not just the dream of a royal return, not just the marriage, not just the Netflix deals and the Spotify contracts and the Archer Well Foundation's donor base. All of it gone. And now the question that is keeping royal watchers, American tabloids and British constitutional experts up at night is this: where exactly do Harry and Meghan go from here? Because Montecito isn't just a zip code, it was a brand. It was the visual backdrop for every interview, every photo shoot, every carefully engineered image of a family thriving outside the palace walls. If Montecito goes, the narrative collapses. With it, stay right here, because what we are about to walk you through is not gossip. This is a financial, legal and personal unraveling that has been building since February 2026, and it is moving faster than anyone predicted. The financial freefall. Let's start with the money, because money, for the dramatic lack of it, is what is driving everything right now. According to documents obtained by the Daily Ledger, the property taxes on the Montecito estate for 2026 are overdue. We are talking about more than $134,000 years in unpaid taxes on a property that was supposed to represent Harry and Meghan's financial independence from the British monarchy. Think about that for a second. The couple who stood before the world and declared they would forge their own path, build their own empire and fund their own freedom. They are behind on their property taxes, but that is only the beginning. Netflix, the deal that was supposed to be worth a reported $100 million, and Samantha Sussex is as global content creators. The streaming giant is reportedly exploring an early exit clause, and if that clause is triggered, it comes with financial penalties that sources are placing in the region of $124 million. That is not a typo, $124 million in potential penalties for a content partnership that never quite delivered the cultural moment either side was banking on. Now ask yourself, if your biggest income stream is evaporating and your property tax bill is sitting unpaid, what do you do with a $18 million mansion that costs a fortune just to maintain? You sell it. But here is where it gets even more complicated. Insiders with direct knowledge of Harry's financial situation have revealed that he quietly reached out to Hollywood mogul Tyler Perry, the same Tyler Perry who famously lent the couple his Beverly Hills mansion when they first fled the Ark, and asked for emergency bridge financing. Emergency bridge financing that is not the language of a thriving media empire, that is the language of someone who has run out of options. And Perry said no. The reason, according to a source close to Perry, was not personal, it was reputation, or nobody, not even older lie. Eyes wants to financially back a man who has been formally locked out by his birth family, stripped of royal protections, and whose public approval in both the UK and the United States is in freefall. We also know, and this detail is critical, that Meghan's personal trust fund was restructured last year, and Harry does not have access as to it. The palace lifeline is gone. The American corporate lifeline is gone. The private friendship lifeline has been declined. There is, according to one former Sussex business consultant, no plan B. So what does a couple do when the mansion becomes a liability, the income streams dry up, and the legal walls start closing in from across the Atlantic? They start packing. The royal order that changed everything. Now, to truly understand why this Montecito exit is happening, we need to go back to February 17, 2026. Because that day did not just change Harry and Meghan's lives, have changed the constitutional architecture of the British monarchy. Standing beneath the vaulted ceiling of St. George's Hall at Windsor Castle, Prince William, acting sovereign in King Charles, his ongoing absence for health reasons, delivered what royal historians are already calling the most definitive statement of royal authority since Queen Elizabeth II's Platinum Jubilee address. Yes, he called it Royal Order Number 17. And this was not a symbolic gesture. This was the formal legal institutional declaration that Prince Harry would never be returning to any official royal role ever. The order, drafted under the guidance of Princess and Lord Alistair Pembroke and Dutch. Yes, Sophie, reaffirmed the indefinite suspension of all titles, privileges, heraldry and royal rights previously held by the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. It froze any assets or inheritance within the Crown estate linked to the Sussex branch. William's words were precise and unsparing. He invoked the pie residence set by King Charles when Charles stripped Prince Andrew of all royal titles in October 2025. Andrew, a direct son of the late Queen, had been evicted from Royal Lodge, a property he had held under a 75-year lease since 2003. He had been relocated to Marsh Farm, a dilapidated cottage On the edge of the Sandringham estate in a known floodplain with no staff quarters, no private chapel, and no active royal protection infrastructure, William made the parallel explicit. If the monarchy could find the strength to remove Andrew for the survival of the crown, he said, then we must also find the strength to protect that crown from further erosion, even when that protection means drawing lines within our own blood. Let that sink in. This was a prince telling the world and telling his brother that bloodline is not a shield anymore, not in this monarchy, not under his watch. And then came the classified memorandum delivered to the Ministry of Justice, invoking Royal Separation Protocol 14-7, originally drafted during the abdication crisis of Edward VIII. The public only found out about it when the Royal Gazette published a single sentence, one sentence, that closed every door. The Duke of Sussex will no longer be accorded sovereign privileges, travel protections, or institutional representation within the United Kingdom are effective immediately. Polls taken the morning after showed 68% of British citizens approved of the decision. William's approval rating is future king soared to 84%. A Morning Times editorial ran, "Just for words, he chose the crown. Now Harry is eating in Montecito, reading this decree off an iPad screen. The children are asleep. Meghan is in another room on a video call with legal counsel, and the final line of the letter reads, no return shall be contemplated until the children's full legal identities are submitted, verified and recognized by the crown." This was not just a rejection, this was a challenge, and it was one Harry had no way of answering. The divorce, the dossier, and the children here is the part that the mainstream media has been slow to piece together, because it involves elements that seem almost too dramatic to be real, but they are real, and they are devastating. In January 2026, Prince Harry finalized a confidential divorce from Meghan Markle. The couple split, while legally sealed, opened a Pandora's box of custody conflicts, image rights disputes, and leaked attempts at reputation will damage control that nobody inside the palace or outside it was fully prepared for. Now, before we go further, we need to ask you something, because this is the detail that separates this story from every other royal scandal you have ever followed. Did you ever think when Harry and Meghan stepped back in 2020, when they gave that Oprah interview in 2021, when they launched Netflix specials and podcast deals and memoirs scale revelations, did you ever think it would end like this, with the divorce, a legal tribunal, and a financial collapse playing out simultaneously? Let us know in the comments, because your perspective on this matters. Back to the dossier. On February 10, 2026, Lady Louise Windsor, just 22 years old, working alongside royal legal officers, submitted a confidential 117-page document to the Royal Family Tribunal. The contents were so serious that Lord Pembroke later said that report changed everything. The Crown could no longer treat this as a personal conflict. It became a matter of success, one of legitimacy, of moral precedent. What was in it? The dossier, a detailed irregularities in Archie and Lilibet's birth records across multiple jurisdictions. It outlined commercial agreements that monetized the children's names and images. It identified violations of international child protection protocols, and most explosively, it revealed that Meghan had allegedly approved a media licensing deal for a children's series called Sussex Kitchen, in which the two children would feature as recurring characters. Think about that, not a documentary, not a book, a branded entertainment series using her children as recurring fictional characters. When that detail reached by both legal advisors and the Privy Council, the response was immediate and unanimous. This was no longer a family disagreement, this was institutional. And then the Royal Family Tribunal, an entity that Lord Pembroke described as the first sovereign family court within the British monarchy since the dissolution of the plantation at Lyme, made its smoke sweeping ruling. Yet Princess Catherine and Duchess Sophie were named royal matrons, legal guardians and custodians of Archie and Lilibet in the event of parental incapacity or loss of custody. William spoke directly to the public about this. These are still children of Windsor, he said. Their future will not be bartered in the court of public opinion nor auction through entertainment platforms. And then came the most chilling legal mechanism of all, the lineage safeguard clause, a rarely invoked royal statute dating back to the early 20th century, quietly revised after the Duke of Windsor's abdication scandal in 1936 and again following Lord Mountbatten the assassinate. This clause gives the reigning monarch or acting sovereign the power to withhold royal passage and recognition to descendants who bear the name, but not the fidelity of the crown, invoked by William, ratified by Charles Archie Harrison Mountbatten Windsor and Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor, or now barred from receiving royal trust entitlements, property claims or ceremonial placements until they turn 21, and only then upon passing a full ethics and identity audit before the Crown Court their royal identity has been paused indefinitely. Meghan's response, and the 5 words that went viral when the ruling went public. Meghan's response was captured in leaked footage that immediately went around the world. She was pacing the veranda of the Montecito estate in athletic gear on the phone, and the words she allegedly screamed into that phone became the defining quote of this entire saga. "They can't freeze my children out. I built their global identity. Gave them the brand." 5 words. I gave them the brand. Forget constitutional law for a moment. Forget the royal tribunals and the Privy Council and the lineage safeguard clause. Those 5 words told the world everything it needed to know about how Meghan Markle viewed her own children, not as individuals, as assets. The backlash was instantaneous and ferocious. Hashtags like #ProtectTheLine, #No More Royal Leaks, and #Custody Not Currency trended globally within hours. A scathing editorial in The Spectator ran the headline, "The grandmother brand Meghan's monetization of royal bloodline collapses in Rio time." And in the days that followed, Meghan's legal team escalated. They filed objections challenging the tribunal's jurisdiction over California-based minors. They accused the Crown of historical overreach and emotional coercion. They reportedly began exploring whether to seek international jurisdiction through The Hague to bypass rulings entirely. Lord Pembroke counter was calm and devastating. While the tribunal recognizes that Archie and Lilibet are physically located in the United States, their birth titles, past privileges and public treatment have been deeply intertwined with the institution of the Crown. Legal standing was granted through that action. Legal review can withdraw it. Translation: you cannot have it both ways. You cannot claim royal privilege when it suits you and American civil jurisdiction when it does not. Meanwhile, Harry was unraveling. Insiders describe him as barely eating, often sleeping in his car rather than inside the house. A source from within the Montecito compound described his state after reading William's final declaration as the end of a hallucination. He had one final phone call with his brother before the decision went public, and the exchange, confirmed by William's senior aide, was brief and brutal. Harry asked, "So that's it, you're just cutting me off forever?" William replied, "No, I'm letting you go because you refused to let go of what broke us." The call ended in silence. And then Harry did something that nobody expected. He reportedly signed a non-objection agreement on one condition: that Archie and Little Bit not be relocated to palace grounds but to a neutral estate in Kent managed by the Crown Guardianship Office, a former country home used by Princess Margaret, staff overseen by non-aristocratic caretakers trained in trauma-informed child development. He let them go, and Meghan, according to sources, has still not forgiven him for it. She allegedly told a confidant over a voice message he doesn't understand empire, where he thinks love can undo protocol. The letter nobody was supposed to see. 2 days after the tribunal ruling, royal aides discovered an unsigned letter addressed simply to "My children." The handwriting matched Harry's. The ink was smudged at the corner as if written in a hurry or in tears. The letter read, "I loved you before titles. I love you now without them. One day you'll understand why I stepped back, but I hope you'll forgive me for what I couldn't stop." There is something profoundly tragic about a father writing a letter to his children that he cannot send, cannot sign, and cannot deliver. A man who walked away from the most powerful family institution in the world, believing he was choosing freedom, and ended up with neither the freedom nor the family. We're going to pause here for a second and ask you genuinely, do you feel sympathy for Harry at this point? Or do you believe that every decision he made led him to this moment, and accountability was always going to arrive eventually? This is one of those questions that divides people sharply. Drop your answer below, because this conversation matters. The Sussex brand collapses. Let us now zoom out and look at what is actually left of the Sussex brand, because this is the context that makes the Montecito exit inevitable, not just financially, but symbolically. Archer Well Foundation donor base collapsed. The organization was built on the promise of social impact tied to royal prestige. Once the titles were suspended and the palace doors locked shut, the corporate and philanthropic partners who had aligned themselves with the Sussex name began quietly distancing themselves. No formal announcements, just silence. Where meetings used to be, Netflix has mentioned the early exit clause is rumored to be in play. The slate of content that was supposed to establish Harry and Meghan as serious cultural voices never landed with the impact either party anticipated. The Royal Rifts documentary, which reportedly included content linked to confidential pediatric appointments, according to internal Netflix memos cited in the tribunal, may itself be cited as evidence of ethical misconduct in the ongoing legal proceedings. Spot a fee. That partnership ended years ago. The Archetypes podcast produced one season and went quiet. The speaking circuit Once a reliable fallback for high-profile departing royals and public figures, even that avenue is closing when no one wants to bankroll you, as Tyler Perry's declined demonstrated booking agents take note, and now Meghan is reportedly in negotiations to co-author a tell-all memoir titled The Crown Kept My Children. Let that title sit with you for a moment. Legal analysts are already warning that this book, is published, is rumored could place Meghan in breach of multiple non-disparagement clauses she signed during the couple's 2020 exit negotiations. Royal legal teams are reviewing whether this constitutes what one advisor privately called contractual self-destruction, but palace advisors are not particularly worried about the book. Their position, informed by the Windsor doctrine that silence is not weakness but strength and discipline, is that the memoir will not generate sympathy, it will generate evidence, and evidence in an ongoing legal dispute over child custody and institute. I once thought silence protected the crown, but I have learned it protects abusers more. In this clarity, I support your ruling children are not bargaining chips, not even royal ones. When Fergie publicly shifts her allegiance, you know the ground has completely moved. Montecito is going here, is what comes next. So let us bring this full circle. The mansion, the exit. The question everyone is asking: where do Harry and Meghan go from here? The practical answer, based on everything we know, is that the Montecito estate is unsustainable, or the overdue property tax is the drawing income streams. The legal costs are fighting a transatlantic custody battle against the resources of the British monarchy. It all points in one direction: the house has to go. But selling the Montecito mansion is not just a financial transaction, it is the end of a narrative. That house was the visual language of the Sussex brand. Every Netflix filming window, every paparazzi Jason walk through the neighborhood, every interview given at home was built around the image of a modern, independent, American-based royal family thriving. Without the palace, the house was proof of concept. Once it sells, that proof of concept evaporates, and the question that follows: where do you go when you have burned your royal bridges? Last year, American corporate partners sold your dream house, finalized a divorce, and watched your children be relocated under crown guardianship orders. Is not a comfortable one. Canada, possibly. Harry has spoken warmly of Canada in the past, and there was a Commonwealth connection that provides some diplomatic softness, but Meghan's career ambitions have always been rooted in Hollywood. Vancouver is not Los Angeles. Europe, unlikely given the revocation of sovereign privileges and travel protections within UC territories that would complicate movement through Commonwealth realms. Remaining in California, but in reduced circumstances. This is probable near-term scenario: a smaller property, a quieter profile, a legal battle grinding forward through the courts that consumes both energy and resources for years to come. But here is what makes this different from every other celebrity fall from grace story you have ever followed. This is not just about fame and money. This is about children, real children. Are Archie, Lily, Bet, two kids who did not choose